Are you curious about the mystery of the youth, longing to explore the fascinating world of Gen Z? And join us on The Far Side, a series of podcasts by the English Club of Foreign Trade University. Stay tuned and get ready to dive into the behavior of Generation Z. Without any further ado, let's start.
Hello everyone, welcome to the first episode of The Far Side, an English podcast about the behaviors of Gen Z. I'm Suri, and joining me today is Mia. Hi Mia!
Hi everyone! Hi Suri! It has been a long time since we last discussed a topic together. I'm looking forward to what we're going to talk about today.
Me too! In this episode, we get to talk about the authenticity in social media concerning Gen Z behaviors, which I believe we have a lot to discuss.
Yeah, it is not uncommon these days to find people turning to Facebook or other online platforms for news and entertainment. Undoubtedly, social media has played an integral part in our modern life. But what exactly is social media?
The term social media refers to a computer-based technology that facilitates the sharing of ideas, thoughts, and information through virtual networks. Do you know that billions of people around the world use social media to share information and make connections in this day and age?
Wow, still, I'm surprised to be in such a wide community. It, once again reminds me that social media is indeed a fundamental part of our life.
Yeah, there's no second guesses to that. And social media has reshaped almost every aspect of our lives. The rapid and vast adoption of these technologies is changing even how we access information, organize to demand political change and find partners.
Talking about changes, I'm still wondering about how people, especially the Gen Z, want to present themselves on social media.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I know that there are two terms called front stage and backstage, presented by Irving Goffman in the 1959 book, The Presentation of Self in Everyday Life, referring to shareable information on social media. So let me ask you something. Have you ever posted something on Facebook?
Of course. In fact, I love to share memorable moments and beautiful pictures of myself and then see my friends' reactions and comments. To be honest with you, I'm the one addicted to virtual interaction.
Well, not gonna lie, me too. So you are essentially playing the role of an actor, presenting yourselves and communicating with your audience on what Goffman calls the front stage under their expectations.
So I guess backstage, on the other hand, takes place in private spaces reserved for group members, like private messages and contents, right?
Exactly. While backstage, you might worry or be nervous. You express your true self. You want to prepare the best privately before the stage is yours, and then you will conquer expectations at the front stage.
Oh, I get what you mean. What an impressive metaphor of theatrical production. I can't believe that such meanings can be implied like that. And anyway, talking about the true self, I assume that depends on what Gen Z actually thinks about the word authenticity, which some Gen Zers don't elaborate on its meaning.
Yeah, so the word authentic simply means being true to yourself. For Gen Zers, it's quite similar. It means to speak your truth and advocate your belief. And you're right, from their social media to the values shaping their way of life, it seems that no generation has got a knack for authenticity as Generation Z.
And I think their attitude, which drives them to search for authenticity, generates greater freedom of expression to be themselves, and also shape their identities, and greater openness to understand different kinds of people.
That's actually what's on my mind too. It is an underlying attitude that there's no authenticity without equality. Gen Z doesn't want isolation. They want people around them to freely express their real selves. When I express myself, I do hope that my friends will express themselves too.
Yeah, each of us has a friend to confide in, right? So I think that is when we are the most authentic. And that makes me also wonder if Gen Z attitudes are different towards authenticity. This year, there's a survey of more than 9,000 social media users, aged between 16 and 64 in 7 global markets by GWI.
Yeah, I know about that one. It is reported that 45% of Gen Z agree that there is too much pressure to be perfect on social media. They're all aspiring for the ideal version of themselves due to perfectionism. Almost everybody suffers or feels less than perfect at some point, and no one aims to post about their flaws online.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. To be honest, I sometimes feel that I'm not good enough when seeing someone who is better than me.
Exactly. That feeling is kind of uncomfortable. However, the survey also indicates Gen Z are also more likely to advocate for people who, show more of their real selves and lives on social media, as 42% of them stated that. Such astonishing and also conflicting numbers, right? I think these numbers imply the desire to present the self in a way that is both ideal and authentic. This occurs in part because self-idealization and authentic self-expression fulfill different psychological needs and are associated with different psychological costs as well.
Can you explain it in detail? When it comes to human psychology, we have to really clarify a lot of terms to unravel its complexity.
Well, firstly, self-idealization, one of human nature, allows individuals to create positive impressions of themselves in others. Meanwhile, the latter is to verify and affirm their sense of self, which can increase self-esteem and a sense of belonging.
So psychological costs in this context are internal conflict, psychological discomfort, and strong emotional reactions while being more or less desirable in social media. This brings the desire to present their authentic selves into conflict with their desire to present the best version of themselves in the front stage.
Yes, you got the point. So the figure told us a fact that Gen Z's views towards authenticity are quite interesting. The conflict between being ideal and authentic surprisingly proves that they do have their own way to interpret being authentic on social media, which opens them to various ways of being themselves and understanding others. Well, we have just approached the authenticity and Gen Z attitudes towards it. And now I kind of want to consider Gen Zers in the way that, they're offered with the affordances of social networking sites or SNS features.
Wow, that sounds pretty interesting. And now, just to make sure that we are all on the same page, do you mean that with a passive role, are Gen Zers offer enough space for authentic online self-presentation?
Yes, exactly what I mean. Do you have any ideas?
Yeah, by testing how authentic I like Gen Z Instagram users feel when self-presenting via two key SNS features, stories versus posts. Researchers have presented a well-suited case study to learn whether Gen Z has enough space for authentic self-presentation.
Hmm. I know that stories and posts are distinct features that highlight different affordances, but I'm not quite sure whether it may lead to different authenticity outcomes.
Well, the answer is the authenticity of self-perceptions differs between stories and posts, as these features grant varying expectations of response, privacy control, and spontaneity. Also, while Instagram has highly polished and curated content, stories allow users to share short-lived captures of life.
So, stories appear to facilitate more authentic and comfortable self-presentation than posts, right?
Yeah, correct. Also, I noticed the key factor that impacts Gen Z's reaction towards authentic self-presentation is their expectations of response. Users, when posting on Instagram, expect to receive more reactions than comments. And in stories, since reactions are technically not available, expected responses are low, as neither sharer nor viewers would consider it necessary to respond to such low effort posting.
And story audiences are also like self-selecting, which means audiences have to actively decide whether to watch a certain story or not, whereas posts are more often overlooked by just scrolling.
And with all of that to tell, contrary to researchers' concerns about declining authenticity due to social media, SNS features may in fact increase authentic self-perceptions.
And the study on stories and post features also implies that certain SNS features propel users to share mostly emotionally positive aspects of their lives, which are particularly potent triggers of authenticity self-perceptions. Thus, SNS may facilitate rather than exacerbate authenticity.
So, on balance, it is clear to note that on social networking sites, the authenticity of the personal information, whether it is front stage or backstage, can be gleaned contextually from other members of the social network. And users in Gen Z do have their own description of authenticity, which propels them to show their real selves and experiment with various ways of expressing individual identities.
And well, also the research on SNS features implies that certain variables are the drivers of authentic self-presentation on social media, such as expectation of response, privacy control, and spontaneity. When reflecting upon these, social networking sites can ensure that Gen Zers get enough space to be authentic and open about themselves on virtual platforms.
And that also wraps up today's episode. Thank you for listening. If you still carry wonders about doings, visit our Facebook fan pages, English Club of Foreign Trade University, and Mastermind, English Social Inquiry Contest for future updates, where we hope to see or reflect on the matters. Don't forget that new episodes come out every Monday and Thursday at 8:30 p.m. on our official fan pages, as well as YouTube and MindPod. Once again, thank you for listening and see you next time.